So now we continue from yesterday. So we have come to the practice number 28, 20. 20, right? Yeah, 20. Yeah. So now here the 20 it says Rang ki shedang dao matulna chirul dao tulwe tulshin pelwanjur Teshir chamdan hingji maabungi rangjun duwa jasilanin. The practice of all the Bodhisattvas is to subdue the mind with the force of loving kindness and compassion. For unless the real adversary, my own anger, is defeated, outer enemies, though I may conquer them, will continue to appear. So so this is again, just showing that one must, conquer one's own enemy, which is the true enemy, which is within oneself, which is this, self-centered nature, which is this I, which create all the other, which create all unpleasant situations. So therefore, it says, unless one is able to defeat that, then the external so-called enemies one would never be able to defeat. We try to defeat one enemy externally, and that one has so many other near and dear ones. So all those become your enemy, and then all those also have their near and dear ones. So that way it only increases. It doesn't decrease that way. And so therefore it says, but all those external enemies came about because of this internal, the strong attachment to this I, which created, those who is near and dear ones to this I, is close to you, have attachment to them, and those who create some uneasy or unacceptable conditions, and then you dislike them, so outside. So therefore, who create this is this I inside you, so this so-called me, the so-called I, so this create all this. So therefore, that is the real enemy, it says. That is the one which is creating all those unfavorable circumstances or unfavorable experiences. So therefore, like we said, if the less you have strong attachment to this I, and the more you have care for others, then automatically, whatever the others, when well-being of others, then this I is happy. When others say something, I is able to accept that, and I is able to forgive them, forgive the others. So that way, when one is able to forgive others, when one is able to do such, and then you are automatically happier, you're automatically satisfied, you're automatically kind in that sense. So therefore it says the true enemy is within oneself. So with the the army of loving kindness, compassion, so loving kindness, compassion, loving kindness means wishing for beings to be happy, and then compassion is wishing that may beings be free from suffering. So that is loving kindness, compassion. So with this kind of developing this kind of a mind stream, then one can truly conquer the enemy, who is the true enemy, which is this anger, jealousy, etc., which is within ourselves. So if we conquer that, then automatically the external so-called enemies are automatically pacified. That is how we do this. Like I was told recently when I was in Austria, the early the kings and queens of Austria, they are called what? Habsburg family, right? So I don't know how far it is true, but I'm told that they were not very good at fighting. So they didn't have very strong army to fight enemies. So what they had to do was they used to make friends with the other neighbors to protect themselves. So they had many children, and then they used to how do you say, make relation through giving their daughters to other kings, so that way everybody became part of family, so you are protected, so like this, so when there's a kind of friendship, then automatically there's no more danger. But if you have to create enemy like that, if you create one enemy, then more enemy that way, then it is impossible. After some time for you to overcome such is impossible. So that is the best way of conquering all enemies, internal, by conquering the internal enemy, or the destructive emotions, then automatically one conquers all the external unfavorable conditions. So here, that is what it says. One must, if one is unable to conquer one's own enemy, which is the anger, which is the hatred within oneself, and then which also one has to understand all other conflicting emotions, and then trying to conquer externally will only make it worse, only make the situation worse. Therefore, with the enemy, therefore with the soldiers, or soldiers of the loving kindness compassion, then trying to overcome one's own conflicting emotions within oneself. So the more you develop loving kindness compassion, the less powerful your internal these conflicting emotions will be. As I said, when you have more love for others, more kindness for others, more open-hearted for others, then there's not much space for selfishness, there's not much space for your ego, there's not much space for jealousy. All these are automatically kind of checked if you develop loving kindness compassion towards others. So as I said, loving kindness compassion with open-hearted, no strings attached to it, genuine loving kindness compassion, wanting to benefit others. So that is important. And so with this, then, that is the practice of the 28th, to develop loving kindness compassion. Then the next is so here it says that beings are limitless, like the like the expanse of the sky. Beings are limitless. Therefore, if one has to conquer the such, it's impossible. Therefore it says, if one is able to conquer this one one thing which is within oneself, and then automatically the external the unfavorable conditions are conquered. And so that is one, it is one example here. So also it says, if one is able to conquer the one's own mind which is within oneself, and then no matter what the external circumstances will not be able to harm you. Nothing will be able to harm you in any way, if one is able to conquer one's mind. So yeah, so that is how we get hurt is because of when our mental state is not stable. When our mental state is easily agitated, then we get hurt. We get all this depression and all that. But if our mental state is stable, if we are able to come to terms through our mental state, then external, no matter what happens, one is able to accept that. One is able to adapt to the situation. So nothing can hurt you that way. So therefore, to be able to conquer one's state of the mind is very important. Then external conditions are automatically conquered. Now the next is the practice of all the Bodhisattvas is to turn away immediately from those things which bring desire and attachment. For the pleasure of the senses are just like salty water, and the more we taste of them, the more our thirst increase. So normally, we always try to satisfy our needs through the external, sensorial level, we try to satisfy, like, good sight, good smell, good taste, good food for taste, then, good things to see for sight, then good touch, good feeling. So this way, we always look externally for comfort. But if that is, the possibility of really being able to satisfy us, then I think all the well-to-do people, the rich people should be very happy, or should not have any problem, and so it should be like that. But it isn't so. Like person like me, I keep traveling all over, and then I'm put up in different houses, with different people, so sometimes I stay with people who are super rich, sometimes I stay with people who don't have much, sometimes I stay with all kind of people. I stay, and then as you stay with them, they gradually open up with you, so as they open up with you, then you see how they are. And then the super rich people, most of them, first, of course, when you go, it looks very nice, they have the best cars, they have the best house, not just one house but many houses, and in one house there are so many rooms, and then all these things. But then as you get to know them, and you think they are happy, then they gradually speak to you, and they say, they are really not happy, they are with so much pressure, so much suffering. They say they've worked so hard entire life for all that, and now they are scared that whether they will be able to keep that, and then they are afraid that it will go down. They have built an empire, business empire. Now they are scared it will go down. So every day no sleep, and trying to keep up with this. And then they are scared after their life, their children, whether they will be able to manage this, whether they will do this, so all like that, so much suffering, so much worries they have, so like that, and then they themselves are saying, I have built a house somewhere, in the mountain. I have a great house, but I have never been there. I want to go there, but I have no time to go there. Like that. So it's like that. They have everything, yet they are unable to, find peace within. Why? Because external, these kind of things are not the source to our happiness, really. It cannot give us happiness. It's just a matter of temporary happiness, and that also is subject to change. So that way we cannot achieve happiness externally. And the more we try to entertain ourselves with the external source, the more hungrier we get, more attached we get, and then the more greater it is, the more suffering there is. A person who owns a goat will have the trouble of a goat size. A person who owns an elephant will have a trouble of an elephant size. So it is like that. So that way, one can never get over one's suffering through this kind of external material, the worldly dharma. So here Buddha himself said, the only through contentment one can overcome this. So contentment is so important, to practice and cultivate contentment. I don't know whether I told you about the story of the old car. Did I tell you? Yeah. Okay, that's I was driving with a very close person of mine in a car, and we were going, in India, everybody know who have been there, how is the road and how is everything. So, and then we were going, and then we was going to park in a place which wasn't it's of good condition, but anyways we cannot find any other place to park, so we had to park there. So this car was a very old car, I think, but fully functioning, very fully functioning, but a very old car. I think about 40 years old, and but working well, still works, and then as we were backing the car, as somebody from back came and banged the car, banged the car on the side. And of course I got worried, because it banged the car from the side, and this person was most not bothered, he's not at all affected. Then I said, your car got banged at the back, and he's like, oh, it's okay, doesn't matter, little bang here, there, my car, no problem, because he has no worries about this, because he has no attachment to his car. He told me his car takes him from one place to the other perfectly, and he's happy with that. He gets to one place to the other in safe, and so what more does a car do? Whether you have the most expensive car or whether you have the ordinary car, it does one work, that is to take you from one place to the other, and his car perfectly does that. If you have an expensive car, you're always worried, if this happened, imagine what would happen. Straight away he would have to take pictures, he would have to run to the insurance, he had to fight with the person who banged his car, he had to do so many things. But his car was such a, he had no attachment. The person who banged it also, he's not worried, he's like, it's okay, you go ahead, and then he let him go, no insurance, no deal with the insurance also, doesn't need to, because it's so like that, so if one has contentment, then there's not much pressure, there's not much worry like that, so with anything in life, basically, if we have the sense of contentment, then what we have, we will be able to really enjoy what we have, and make best out of what we have, and we would be able to share with people also what we have, so I think contentment is very important, so it doesn't mean you should not have anything. If you have something, if you have contentment in that, then you would be able to share with people, you would be able to make the best out of it, you would not be so selfish and self-centered, and then if you don't have it also, you would be, you will not be suffering by looking at others, jealousy and all this, you will be content with what you have, so like this, contentment is, I think, one of the best practice one can adopt in one's lifetime, so if one adopts this kind of a practice, then one will be truly a happier person, no matter what the situation may be. So this practice is on the contentment. So it says Dubhi, Dubhi, and then inside Chudanda. So the attachment is like attachment and so want, greed for external material is like the salt water. If one drinks to that, if one drinks salt water, then one continues to drink because it keeps getting you more and more thirsty. So that way, if we entertain ourselves with the worldly kind of material, and then there's never an end to our kind of satisfaction or need, that we will always want more and more, and therefore kana shincha. Therefore, as a bodhisattva practitioner, then one must, it says here, cut anything that kind of develops attachment or these kind of things. So recognize, that means being mindful, so one must always be mindful, and when develop too much this kind of attachment and greed, then one must recognize that and say, okay, now is enough, so this is too much. Now this, what you need and what you want is different, so what you need you must have, but what you want, there's never end to what you want, so you must know how to balance that, so it says, as a bodhisattva practitioner, then one must be able to draw a boundary between that, and what you need, then be content with that, and then not get carried away and slaved by one's wants, because there will never be end to one's wants, so that is the practice of a bodhisattva. So these are simple yet very deep practices that one can adopt in one's lifetime, so like contentment, that is very important, so one must practice contentment. So of course it doesn't come just like that, one day. You might want to practice contentment, then but just first developing the thought of, first recognizing what is contentment, that is important. Then the benefits of contentment, that is important. So gradually we move that way. Then after that, then trying to adopt that. One time we might fail, two times we might fail, but first time you fail, second time you will have the first time failure as your reflection, and then you can improve on that. Then the second time you become a stronger, and then you can improve that way. So gradually we improve, not straight away we can give up everything, because we have been habituated to so these things for so long period of time. So it's not easy to just overcome straight away, but gradually we overcome them, so that is how we should. Now the next is, okay, so now that way these were the So now the next, which is the, as I said, the absolute bodhicitta or the ultimate bodhicitta. So the practice of the absolute bodhicitta or the practice of the ultimate bodhicitta. So practice meditation is the same of the absolute bodhicitta. So till here it was the relative bodhicitta. So now the absolute bodhicitta. So here in the absolute practice of the absolute bodhicitta also there are two. One is the meditation itself and one is the post-meditation. So here first is the meditation itself or the practice of the absolute bodhicitta itself. So here it says Chitar Nangwa Dida Rangisem Semni Dune Tubi Tatantal Teni Shene Zungjin Semanam Hila Meje Jelsilalin. So it says the practice of all the bodhisattva is never to entertain concepts which revolve around dualistic notions of perceiver and perceived, in the knowledge that all these appearances are but the mind itself, whilst mind's own nature is forever beyond the limitations of ideas. So that is the absolute bodhicitta. So here it is saying, the Chidanavadidarangsam. So whatever that one perceives or sees around is the is the manifestation of one's mind, nothing more than that. A perception, nothing more than a perception. The mind's fabrication. So nothing more than that. There's no reality to any of it. It is just like a dream. It says. So in a dream, when we dream, we experience everything. We see things, we experience things, we go through things. So in a dream, we experience everything. But then, if you say, is it real? It is just a dream. It's not real. When you wake up, it is no more there. It is not real. But when you are dreaming, you experience everything. It is real. So same way, whatever one experiences, right now. So all this is just a mere appearance, like the dream it says. One experiences, certain things, but all this is like one's own mental fabrication, nothing more than that. As we saw yesterday, as I gave you the example of the flower. So one's mental perception of this flower as a lotus, so form as a lotus. One's mental fabrication of, say, this house, the color of this as a yellow, then it is a yellow. So one experiences this as yellow color. Then this particular house as a what was this before? A shed. And then now became a shrine. So to those people who know it is a shed, still having difficulty saying shrine, that is habitual pattern, isn't it? But then gradually we will adapt to saying it as a shrine, and after some time it will become a shrine. And people who did not see this place before but came after this was built will see it as a shrine. For them it is a shrine from the beginning. So like this. So all this is one's mental fabrication. It's so that way one adapts that way, one experiences that way, one sees that way. So all this says. So there is no kind of a fixed reality to it. If there was, then it should have remained whatever it was forever. But it isn't. It changes. That way according to one's mental experience or mind's perception. So that is what. So everything around, everything one experiences is like that. It says. There's no reality in it. It is a mere mental fabrication. Then the next it says, Semni duni to be tadanta. And even this mind which experiences that, the mind itself is also kind of empty of such reality. If you see where the mind is, if you examine the mind, where is it? It is difficult, or it is impossible to find where the mind is. Whether it is inside our heart. People say my mind, but where is the mind? If you check the mind, in your heart, you cannot find. Then some might think it is in my brains, but brain is brain. Is the mind really there? If you search, you cannot find the mind. Mind. And then whether it is outside of your body, whether it is inside of your body, whether it is yellow in color, whether it is red in color, whether it has any color, whether it is square, whether it's triangle, whether it's circle, what is the shape of the mind. So if you examine that way, one by one, you will not find any mind as particular as such. So then if you say there is no mind, and then we will come to a conclusion that there's you cannot find mind. So then if you say there is no mind, then who is saying there is no mind again? Who is saying that there is mind or there is no mind? Who's saying that? So it is not that it is not there, because there's something that is saying it is there. Yet if you search, it is not there. So mind is beyond any kind of that kind of a dualistic there or not there. So it is beyond such limitations, it says here. So the mind itself is beyond such. It says which in the knowledge, what does it say here? Which revolve around dualistic notion of perceiving. In the knowledge that there's appearance, while this mind's own nature is forever beyond the limitations of ideas. So the mind itself is beyond such limitations of this or that. So it is beyond that. Therefore, it's a tenishin zungzin semanam. So therefore, realizing this, then the mind itself is beyond such, and the things perceived is which is perceived by the mind, which is beyond such limitation, is limitless. There's no limitations to anything. Everything beyond limitation of that, and that is the so recognizing this, then there is no limitations, or there is no fixed limitations to this or that as this or that. Everything is beyond such limitations. And if we recognize this, then we recognize the non-dual of everything. We recognize the empty nature of everything. So that is what it is saying here. So recognizing the empty nature of everything. So empty doesn't mean nothing there. We are not like the mind. We are saying empty. The mind is empty, but not empty as in not there. Because if it's not there, who's saying it is there? So it is beyond there or not there. So it is that kind of emptiness. So everything, is that kind of emptiness. It is beyond this or that. The mind perceives everything. And the one perceiver, the mind itself, is beyond such limitations. So therefore, then recognizing this, is the practice. Recognizing this is the practice of a bodhisattva, which is the absolute bodhicitta. So the practice of this, recognizing, is the absolute bodhicitta, and the practice, the one doing such practice, is a bodhisattva. So now, how do you do this practice? So there are many levels of this practice, but to understand this in the most simple way, supposing we all know shamatha meditation, right? Everybody knows shamatha. So first you just relax, completely relax, let go of everything, and then from there, then you do little bit of shamatha meditation. Like for example, say breathing shamatha meditation. Then when you do the breathing shamatha meditation with breath, counting the breath, then that way one is able to achieve a calm abiding state of the mind. So in that calm abiding state of mind, continuing that, then you gradually stop counting the breath also, and maintaining just the aware, calm, aware state of the mind. So just maintaining that. Then continue in this kind of state of the mind, and then from there, without even having any kind of expectations of doing certain meditation, or doing a shamatha meditation, or without any expectations of trying to have a good shamatha meditation, and without any fear of having not a good shamatha meditation. So leaving all that kind of expectations and fear behind, without any kind of attachment to such things, just letting it be as it is, remaining in the very nature, the bare awareness as it is. So just maintaining this. So when you do this, then that is the absolute state, where it is detached from all kind of perceptions of this or that, of aware or not aware, of good or bad. So all this, when you're free of all this, just maintaining as it is, remaining in the absolute state, as it is. So that is the simple meditation. One can experience this. So when one does such practice, then for momentary experience of such absolute, one can experience. So of course this kind of experience at the moment will not stay for long. The moment we again think, are we in the absolute? Am I expecting? Am I how do you say, experiencing the absolute? You're already gone there. So like that. But then the minute you're gone, again you try to come back to the state of the absolute, then again you will achieve. Again it will disappear. So like that. But at this moment, again and again, so one will be able to experience such absolute. From momentarily one will be able to experience. So that then one tries to maintain this. So that is how we do such practice of the absolute meditation. And so as I already told you yesterday, so such kind of meditation is the highest form of purification also, because at the end of the day, purification means purifying negative karma, so that means good karma, bad karma. So that is is relative. As we saw, ultimately everything is free of such dualistic limitations of there or not there, good or bad, samsara or nirvana. So that is the absolute state. So there, then karma is also beyond such. There is no karma actually. As far as this is me, as far as that is you, as far as we have this, then we are relative. As far as we are relative, we have karma. But in the absolute state or the ultimate state, karma is just one's perception. It is not a reality. That is why we can overcome karma. That is why we can purify karma. If karma was absolute, how can we purify karma? We cannot. We cannot have purity. But because karma is relative, it is not absolute. Therefore, we can purify karma. So. But if we say it is not there, absolute, so no karma, then then we should be also no you, no me. But then no matter how we try, still there's you, still there's me. But we have to realize this, not just say no me and no you. Like my teacher, Guru, always say that he had a friend before. And then he was teaching about this absolute and relative, and then about there is no substantial I, it is just a mental fabrication, and so like this. So he reflected on this, and one day he stopped using the word I, and then he stopped completely I. Then everybody has so much problem to talk to him because he don't believe in I anymore. So he doesn't say I. So like this. Then after some time, that is not how we practice such. It doesn't happen that way. So so as long as we are relative, we still have I. We still have this. But gradually, when we have the realization, then we cut through this. Like the story of the Milarepa. Milarepa, when he so his student Rechungpa went to India to learn the Dharma, because Dharma, India was the the birthplace of Dharma. All great masters were in India, so he went from Tibet to India, and then after a few years, then he returned back to Tibet with after learning the Dharma. So Milarepa went to receive him, to see his student, and I'm very happy that his student came back with the Dharma. And then but when he met him, he saw that he had these books of black magic. He had learned lots of these black magic in India. India also had lots of magics, black magic. So he had learned all that. And then Milarepa was so upset. He thought, I sent him to learn the genuine Dharma, and here he goes trying to learn the black magic with which you can become, you can, look powerful. You can kind of trick people with these things, and make material gains like this. So and then Milarepa was very upset, but Rechungpa really thought he had become powerful by learning these kind of magics. And then Milarepa was really upset. So Milarepa said, that let's have a nice cup of tea, So it was, Tibet is all barren, like here also, but very big, barren land. So not much, you cannot find tree and all easily. So Milarepa said, let's have a cup of tea. Let's, boil tea. So you go and find for the, twigs, the sticks, and then meanwhile, I will make some, that stone, the 3 stone to put the, to boil the tea. So he said, okay. Rinpoche went to, find, sticks. And then meanwhile, Milarepa quickly took all this black magic, books and burned them up, everything. Then when Rinpoche came back, he saw, that all these black magic books Milarepa had burnt, So he was so upset, Rinpoche was so angry and upset at Milarepa. Milarepa was his teacher, spiritual guru. But Rinpoche, because of his ego, after learning all this, he even had, real, he really was angry with Milarepa, and then he lost his kind of faith in Milarepa. He thought Milarepa was jealous with him, for him learning all this and having all this power. Then Rinpoche started, kind of fight, kind of like this kind of thought was, I don't know whether he told Milarepa, whether he, kind of, this kind of thought came in him, but Milarepa could realize or recognize that because Milarepa had special, omniscience. So then Milarepa, with his, power, of course, he was enlightened, so he had, this miracle. So through his miracle, suddenly he, made hailstorm. He made hailstorm. And then in that there's no place to run, because it's big grassland, there's no shed or no place to hide, and then hailstorms, big hailstorms hitting your head is dangerous, started like this. Then Rinpoche started running for, somewhere to hide in, and he cannot find anywhere, and he's hiding around, he's looking around, jumping around, and then suddenly he cannot see Milarepa, and he hears Milarepa singing, from somewhere and saying, if you think, you are, great, you have such power, then come in here, I'm very comfortable, it's very comfortable in here. So when Rinpoche is looking around and cannot find Milarepa anywhere, then suddenly he tries to listen, and then he hears the sound coming from, somewhere, and then when he looks, it is a yak's horn, yak's horn, a dead yak's horn, on the ground, and then he hears the sound coming from there. Then he goes towards that, and then when he looks into the yak's horn, he sees Milarepa in there, very comfortably sitting and calling out to Rinpoche. But when he looks at the Milarepa, he sees the Milarepa's size hasn't reduced to, the yak's horn. It is the equally size of himself. But then he can fit inside that yak horn, and calling. And Rinpoche cannot fit, because he is, the normal size, but he cannot fit in there. So this is how. Then he really developed, great devotion, and he regretted for his, such behavior and such. Then he did confession and all that, and again, took. Kind of teachings from Milarepa and others. So that is how. And so if you transcend such, relative level, and then, there's small, big, all this is just a mental fabrication. You cross that, then like these things are possible. But as long as we haven't crossed that, then small is small, big is big. We cannot fit into a small thing. So like that. So Milarepa and in their level they were beyond that. So there are many stories of great masters walking on, water and all like this. So when they transcend such, mental fabrication of water as liquid cannot, walk on that, and solid is something hard, you can walk on that. So these are all, mental, kind of fabrication. If you really examine them one by one, it is empty of such a thing. It is empty. It's one can break into emptiness. So like that. So when one really gains, the insight and realization into emptiness, what is empty, emptiness, then one transcends these limitations of this or that, and such. So that is so in that respect, then this this kind of absolute bodhicitta practice or the meditation is very powerful. Through this one can purify one's negative karma of countless lifetimes, they say, because they are very powerful. They are in that. So here one can do such meditations, and adopt such meditations in one's life. Okay, so here maybe we stop here. Oh, wait. Yeah, we stop here for the lunch. Okay. Yep. Okay, so we dedicate. Nam 제가 나지 마라 정말 시빈 소면 도와줘 제들은 정말 오늘 대야 대야 예수 나로 쟁겨 너던 던지라도 무슨 예배 신나 주님 민주는 된배신나 긴데미지 되배신나 제대로 대화 소소 현대 남가 참가 도난 동안 도기요 그러한 동안은 제자자 동보요 만들어서도 사마야 맞는 바는 만들어서도 되는거들은 멤버와 수도카야 멤버와 수보자야 멤버 하늘아도 멤버와 서로서도 멤버에서 서로 karma 수자매 zırdam shiriyam kruhum 하하하하호 바가완 서로다다 가담 벤저마 멘벤전 벤저마 마하사마야 사도